you guys can take the lead on this album because this is my first real listen to hyperpop ever, and I want to hear your guys' take on it
Yeah, this is
first.
watered down version of hyperpop. So this album, like, I think it's a good introduction to hyperpop because it introduces those ideas of the based out sounds, a little bit of glitch elements, but still kind of just embodies, I think, what the direction of pop music is, like where it's
I
going.
don't
I feel
know
like this.
though. What I didn't like about this was like I felt like this was like at least for someone who's been like who really fucks with hyperpop, I was like I really hope people don't listen to this and think that this is what all hyperpop is
Oh
because this
God.
to me
Thank you, thank you.
what
Please tell me more about what real hyperpop is because this is
Yeah,
like
oh
my
no no no
first
no no
venture
no. I
in.
don't know. It was like during the pandemic when I got into hyperpop, so I was following a lot of these artists like when they were first popping up. Like Glaive had like no followers on Sound like but like what I liked originally with him was that he did this thing like he has a song like he has a feature with this other artist named Curtains. It's called like I think it's called like Crowbars, but like the whole his thing was he actually like kind of spit bars, which was kind of surprising like for like a 15-year-old kid in his room. Like he actually had some decent writing. I liked with this album like he's his consistently like he always writes fire hooks. Like the hooks always come out really hard. 17 and Depressed, which is like I feel like the target audience for this like that like those hooks hit. But like before I felt like he would actually kind of like have some decent verses, but I feel like in this he's kind of moving more towards like just a full pop direction.
That's why I do think it's a decent introduction because this is like the most watered down version of it, and like in that a very contemporary version of that because like this what I like about it is I could more comfortably just call this pop music,
Yeah,
but it does have a little bit of edge to it.
this felt like a pop album with EDM elements. Like it didn't really
I wouldn't
feel
even
like
say
hyper
EDM.
pop.
It just felt yeah, it just had a little bit of that saturation, that edge, that glitch to it. Not crazy, not like that crazy glitch core stuff that like certain people are trying to accomplish, but it had that high intensity. And I think it's if you look at it as a pop album, you appreciate it more as that than if you look at it as a hyper pop album.
so when I was listening to this album, it took me a couple listens to actually like get into it because the first listen, I do agree the hooks are really catchy with Cam. Like the hooks are catchy. I did enjoy it. I think that was the best part of the song, especially how the song would actually come to life with the drums. Like the drums got really saturated and loud, like really heavy on majority of the hooks, especially 1984, the Test Me, I Want to Slam My Head Against the Wall. Like those songs were like when you got to the hook, you just want to bang your head there, like for real, like the song says. But then I felt the songwriting was just a bit lacking, somewhat just young. And then I realized he was 16. I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that kind of explains a lot of the reasons why I didn't like this. I didn't like it as much as thought I would because I didn't like some of the lines. I didn't like the song structure. Kind of felt predictable. Like I know exactly how every song was going to be: verse, hook, chorus, verse, hook, chorus. Maybe a bridge there. Maybe start with a hook. Besides that, it was like same formula every time. But the production behind it, as someone who I was thinking this is hyper pop, I'm like, oh wow, this is really cool. Like I like how much life there is into the music. This isn't like a minimalist album whatsoever. Like don't expect that when you come to this album. Your ears, you have two headphones on, you're gonna have a big fucking headache. Like you kind of are. Don't put it too loud because your brain gonna shatter in a couple pieces. But it's enjoyable. But then my biggest problem, like I said, was the songwriting, and I did not like it because of that.
This project really made me reconsider a lot about myself personally. I think
Oh
I'm
god.
an old head. I think I'm outdated. I think I'm washed. I honestly don't get
So
it.
you got to
The,
train your ears to it.
I know, but just off the initial interpretation, this meshing of pops that is like digicore, just it doesn't like do it for me, you know? I mean, before like I say bad things about this kid, I just want to say shout out to him because he's literally pioneering an entire genre basically from his small town bedroom. And I mean, Lord knows I wasn't accomplishing anything like that when I was 16. So like, who am I to say? You know, kid's obviously talented and he's doing crazy things. But at the same time, my biggest complaint, like Stevenson, was the songwriting. Like, how you gonna be 16 years old talking about surprised I haven't died yet? You know, like we've all been 16. I get it. You overthink everything and make like terrible impulsive decisions because your frontal lobe isn't fully developed. Like that's fine. But you're a 16-year-old white kid, and according to your Wikipedia page, if this is correct, your dad was a professional polo player. I feel like the worst thing that's ever happened to you is mommy found your jewel and you got grounded for the weekend. And like that's the whole inspiration for this project.
Yo.
No, I'm not done. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. He has one bar where he says, "She don't like me, she likes alcohol." Really? At 16? Bro, if that's the case, she has bigger problems than you, and instead of writing a song about her, you need to help this poor girl. He says, no,
drinking alcohol.
He says, "I've been alone last 2 years." That's like half your life, dog. Like, what? I don't understand. Like, I didn't get it. I didn't get it. This project completely went over my head. But again, like, it's not for me. Shout out to the kid. He's doing big things, though.
I did not want to say all that. I really did it because, like, I agree.
No, I'm glad. This is such a polarizing genre. It really is, and that's why I kind of love talking about it, because there's some people like that just don't get it, and like I like understand it, but the people that like it resonates with, it really fucking resonates with, and that's especially the case for the emo, like the actual examples of like what hyperpop is. This is like literally, like I said, watered down futuristic pop music, if anything, where it's like, I mean, people like Gex, that's like the most 100 Gex are like the most polarizing group, because like I personally love them, but like people are like, okay, this is Alvin and the Chipmunks if you threw your phone in a blender and then fed it to a crackhead and then they puked it up. The sound of that is what 100 Gex is to them. And like I understand that. I get where you're coming from. But like, this is something that I'm vibing with, because I really think every element is good. I don't think anything is leaning on each other. I don't think there's any element of each of these songs that relies on each other. First and foremost, most notably, the production I think is fucking sick. I really admire how it's done. Yeah. I think the production is incredible. The intensity, it's captivating. Like Stevenson said, you don't throw this in the background. You have this on your headphones. You can't ignore this. He has certain songs like Astrid, where I think the songwriting is really good. Astrid was like his biggest hit up to this point.
I wanted to talk about that because I really felt like as someone who's like, I felt like Glaive's music, like, actually in the past has had better songwriting than this album. Like, I've actually, which is like interesting since this is like his third release, I think. Like, he should be able to do, like, I expected bigger and better. I was kind of surprised for I was like kind of like looking forward to this a little bit, but like, at least recently, I've been noticing that I feel like he's been going more in that pop direction. He's been focusing more on the hooks and not actually adding like pretty good verses. And like literally, like in most of these songs, it really is just the hook over and over again with like a couple words in between and like nothing else at all. But in Astrid, like in his track Astrid, which is his most popular song, he does this thing where he actually spits like some decent verses. He does this thing where he kind of gets like this little like monotone voice, and he just starts like talking really fast. But like, the verse is decent. It's pretty good. I've never heard anything that sounds exactly like it. A lot of the other like young like hyperpop kids do have like a similar flow, but it works, and it's like it like kind of accompanies like the really loud, intense beats really well. But on this, he doesn't do that at all. It's all just either him singing, which I also kind of felt weird about, because the singing is good. I like that he's like pushing his voice really far, because in a lot of his other work he doesn't really like sing as as loudly as he does on this, but the singing didn't feel strong enough to carry the album like I felt like it was meant to. Like, I felt like it just felt kind of empty. Something else was missing. But also, he is like 16 and he's like experimenting.
Yeah. It made me feel old, and I feel like that's why I didn't like it. Like, honestly.
Well, this is the epitome. This is like, this fully encapsulates the amount of ADD that's in Glaive's age group. Like, the kid, like, I have ADD myself and I empathize, but the kid, like, I saw his IG like live streams, and he's like constantly wired, and like he's like always talking like this, like really fast. Like, I think that like is very apparent in just how attention grabbing his music is, because he doesn't have time to, like, I feel like any other type of music, like, he probably wouldn't be able to pay attention to, and he's appealing to the same kids with ADD.
That's the biggest thing of like having a new genre like be born out of the digital age. Is like with attention spans decreasing, like you have to find a way to get those eyes or ears and like keep them on you, you know? So I feel like this is just the direction that music has to go.
Yeah, it's by the kids for the kids, because it is literally designed for, like you said, short attention spans.
I feel like in this he's like really specific. Like the alcohol line you said was like I agree is like kind of corny. I feel like usually the way they do it is it's just like it's more of like a aesthetic, like it's like a mood or like an aesthetic than
Yeah.
them actually like whining about their life like Glaive does here. Which also like I could even get in. I could honestly get into like I kind of like Glaive's whole like appearance as an artist along with his music, because I like the fact that he is like a 16-year-old white boy who's like complaining about his life does turn me off from his music personally. But I like at least for me, I try to like sonically differentiate him from his personality just because he is so young. And it is
Yeah.
like really easy to just like invalidate artists because they're younger.
I truly agree with your point about we dismiss people his age that young, because especially in our adulthood or early adulthood now you're whining over she don't like liquor, bro. Like I have a job, I ain't getting paid enough like at all for this. Like I got real life problems. So you kind of just like invalidate it. But the fact that he's 16 and is this talented actually shows a lot about him, and especially sonically speaking. I actually love this album sonically. Like we base him all on the music and what's happening here. If this is the most like bubblegum or downgraded version of hyperpump, I want to hear what real hyperpump is.
Yeah.
As a first time listener of that, I do want to go more into the subject.
Yeah.
But then into the songwriting, it just sounded like an A&R had to hire some songwriter and they said, this is what we're going to talk about because this is your fan base. You're going to talk about she likes you more than alcohol. You're going to talk about how you hate your life and you've been lonely for 2 years. Like, it sounded like it wasn't written by him anymore.
This shit
Just someone
felt kind
took
of
over.
corporate to me.
Yes.
And it makes
This album
sense.
felt kind of corporate.
Yes. And then
Like-
it didn't. And I don't have the experiences you guys do to his previous music. You probably can relate more to that. But to me, that was it didn't feel authentic to him. Like it might be his story, it might be his feelings, but it was a different writer it was a different author who did this. It just sounds like a biography than an autobiography, and I don't like that because it was poorly done songwriting wise.
That's exactly how I felt too. This whole thing felt very like a lot of the writing to me felt very corporate. It just did
I
not
think
feel.
it's a product of the Interscope's record deal, I'd say, maybe. Tying it back to this Glaive album, yeah, it might be a lot more pop, but that's kind of the direction it's bound to go. Something that has so much like a cult, so much of a cult following, but isn't like tamed to them, like, you know, to have mainstream appeal. It's bound to be watered down and you know,
Yeah, I was
become a
gonna
lot more
say,
contemporary.
at one point it has to
And
get
for-
more watered down and get more mainstream appeal, like before.
And I think
before it
Glaive-
truly blows up.
I think Glaive did an excellent job, you know, going in that direction with this EP. I genuinely really liked it, and I think the biggest part about that, of like why I liked it so much, is because I don't think one element relied on another. I don't think his voice was shitty and he was relying on good production. I don't think the production was shitty and he was relying on his good voice. I thought his voice was really good. I thought the harmonies I think his harmonies are really cool. I like how he sounds. I thought the songwriting was pretty decent for the most part for what it was. And I really think the production was like attention grabbing. Glaive overall as an artist, like I really like, you know, we were talking about his verses that are really good. It's very cool to see someone have such good verses, but don't like not stripping down the emotion, the production to make sure that the verses shine. It's the production's always going and always hitting while he's ciphering through that.
I actually like disagree a little bit though. Well, at least that like none of the elements of the album are leaning on each other. I feel weird talking about the negatives of this album just because he is literally 16 and this is like a massive accomplishment of an album. But compared to like his last album, Cypress Grove, where like I said, like the songwriting, there were different styles of him actually like coming onto these tracks. Like in this, it felt like there was one gimmick, which was this like squeaky voice, like pop singing thing he was doing, which is very similar to like Break-Ins, which is like it sucks to I probably shouldn't compare him to other artists, but it still feels very much like almost like he took like a gimmick that he saw that works well and then made a whole album of just that gimmick. Didn't have any verses in between didn't have any like strong verses in between his hooks really, and just kind of like kind of kept playing out this one thing for like a whole album. Whereas in a lot of his other work, I felt like that wasn't the case, and there was a lot more diversity in terms of the songwriting, in terms of like his approach to like even the beat selection too. Like a lot of the beats in this felt pretty similar to me. I liked a lot of the double tracking and stuff like that, but I don't know. I feel like it could have been a little bit different. We've probably been talking about this album for too long now. So
Welcome to the Traklife YouTube channel. We are the New Music Release Club. I am Dom.
I'm Aiden.
And I'm Stevenson. Here's the links at the bottom of the YouTube page. Subscribe and check out more content from the Music Release Club.
Yeah, check out our album reviews. We also got live sessions, raw stream, all that good stuff right here on the Traklife YouTube page.